Yeah, I will. It's going to be the Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's going to be the Western Conference Finals. That's going to be the matchup.
Stephen A?
I agree.
I can't tell if the Dallas Mavericks are on the brink of making the NBA Finals or on the forefront of blowing a 3-2 series lead. Throughout this playoffs, Luka Doncic has been injured. Kyrie Irving has been somewhat inconsistent. Jason Kidd's coaching sometimes has been rather questionable, and role players have been stepping up left and right. Regardless of how I feel or how you may feel about the Dallas Mavericks, they do deserve their flowers as they've swiftly turned their season around upon acquiring PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Since the acquisition of these two, they've had a 21-8 record with a first-round victory, obviously, over the Los Angeles Clippers. They handled that business in 6 games. Previous to the acquisition of these men, the Mavericks were up and down in the standings, while Luka Doncic was slowly rising in MVP voting. I think the big consensus for Dallas basketball with these last couple of years has been, hey, if Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic cannot combine for at least 50 points, then we are going to not win basketball games and we will go home losers. However, there has been a very noticeable change in culture and mindset both on and off the floor. At the making of this video, which is about 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 hours before tip-off of Game 6 versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, another factor I have to mention when it comes to trying to process, or I guess gauge, the Dallas Mavericks' success and or gameplay is the fact that when you watch the games that they played with the Los Angeles Clippers, with and without Kawhi Leonard on the floor, the games that they lost, they still looked extremely competitive. When the Clippers, I think it was game 4 or 5, the Clippers led by as many as 30 points, but Dallas came back in that fourth quarter, and with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, it was a tie ball game, and they maintained their cool while Kyrie Irving turned into a fourth quarter maestro, and Luka Doncic was absolutely brilliant, other than getting hunted by James Harden on back-to-back possessions, which ended up losing them the game, but they won the series, so who's laughing now? However, when we look at this series with Oklahoma City, it's very hard for me to gauge the readiness of the Dallas Mavericks when the Oklahoma City Thunder are, to put it simply, not rising to their occasion. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They look lackluster everywhere outside of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Everyone has not looked entirely great in those losses. Lou Dort is in foul trouble. He's missing three-pointers. He's getting emotional with officials. Jalen Williams has looked insanely inefficient, and he seems like he's settling for shots that were not there in the regular season. And there's certain guys on the Oklahoma City Thunder that are being called upon to fill shoes that they haven't been asked to get filled all year. And this is during the playoffs when it matters most. They're looking at guys like Jalen Williams, Kaysen Wallace. They're looking at Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. The starting lineup has changed in this playoff series, the second round of the playoffs. We're having starting lineup changes. That should just show you how different the production has been for Oklahoma City from the last series to this one. Now, that's not to take any credit away from Dallas, because what they've done on defense has mitigated a lot of what the Oklahoma City Thunder have been able to do with their offensive sets. Obviously, they're very known for their three-point shooting. So again, that's not to discredit anything Dallas has or hasn't done in this series, because I am a firm believer you play who's in front of you. You should never get in trouble, be hated on, be discredited for playing anything or anyone that's in front of you. How they stand. If they're healthy, it's not like you wait up and rest for them to play. You should never have to apologize for winning is the point I'm trying to get at. But when I look at a team like Minnesota, when I look at a team like Boston, when I look at a team like Denver, those three organizations seem to clearly know exactly what it takes to win basketball games at the highest level in the final minutes of big-time playoff games. And that seems to be a tiny bit backwards, because I am haphazardly including the Minnesota Timberwolves alongside the NBA champion Denver Nuggets, the NBA Finals berth / I made it to 6 conference finals in a row, Boston Celtics. But clearly, if the Minnesota Timberwolves can take the champions to 7 games and stomp them by 45 in Game 6, then clearly they have some type of cojones to, if you will, manhandle a team that shows any bit of weakness, any little bit of injury, any mistakes that are glaring beyond a 2-minute stretch. And that's my big question or concern with the Dallas Mavericks, is that can they put together enough winning stretches to compete in the Western Conference? Because there's a lot of things I really do enjoy about Dallas basketball in this postseason. For starters, PJ Washington, when that trade happened, I made a video. It was something called like the NBA trade deadline changes everything. And I said that this was a perfect replacement for Grant Williams. And I kind of dogged Grant Williams. I went back and watched that video. And I'm laughing a little bit about it now because I was a little bit rude. So Grant Grant, for some reason, if you're watching this, I apologize. But PJ is just a perfect man behind Luka, and he did everything Grant was supposed to do better. He's more athletic, he's a better shooter, he's better in transition. You guys get the point. And that's why we've seen him have these 20-point outbursts multiple times in this postseason. Outside of that, Derek Lively is like a 7-foot Christian Brown, and I know a lot of people that are not Denver fans cannot, and apparently, according to Twitter, cannot stand Christian Brown. I don't get the hate. I don't understand why people always have this angry approach to NBA players that are quote-unquote energy guys, but personally, I love them. They're so much fun to watch, especially when they're at home. It's very rare that we would see a kid like Derek Lively, as young as he is, come into the league who he's screaming after every dunk, every putback, every offensive rebound, the defensive rotations, both sides of the pick and roll. I just love his game, and they have been a lot of fun. They've been trying to hack a Lively Derek, but he's been getting better every single night and nailing those free throws. I don't love the tendencies that Luka Doncic has shown in regards to his attitudes with the officials. Now, this is something you can kind of take it or leave it, give it or take, whatever you want to say. With basketball players, we see it a lot. LeBron James, Devin Booker, Luka Doncic. A lot of these times, these superstars, it's not a discredit to their game. We just see them, kind of complaining to the officials, and maybe it's an issue with how their greatness, and maybe they start to feel a little bit of entitlement. It starts to surface a little bit when they're not getting the calls that they feel so rightfully entitled to. They might tend to flop a little more to sell the call. A wise man once said basketball players are better actors than basketball players. They just tend to complain a little more. I really do have respect for the NBA players who just bite their tongue and kind of, put themselves in the officials' shoes and say, hey, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, calling high-level basketball in the playoffs, especially because in the postseason, where we love to throw the adage around that, hey, it's more physical, it's supposed to be a little more lenient on these hand checks and things of that nature. Like, guys, you got to see it both ways. But aside from the antics with the officials, I got to give Luka Doncic a lot of love. He has been not so great from behind the arc. He's not been that great from the defensive standpoint, but has he been a leader? Yes. Has he given it his all every single game on nights where his knees are popping out of his body? Yes. Is he out there for his team 35 minutes a night? Yes. These are things that you cannot buy with your superstar players, and I love that alongside him you have Kyrie Irving, a fourth quarter maestro, someone who might struggle in a series like this and give you 8 points one game, but if his number is really seriously called, he can give you 30 to 40 on any given night. It's funny that just adds to the polarizing nature that is the Dallas Mavericks. I think the biggest X factor in this series is the stars. Usually it tends to be a little more undermining, it tends to be a little more role player oriented, but again, truth to be told, I think those role players have been excellent. I think the defense has been above average. I think the standard for the X factor is Kyrie and Luka Doncic. They need to rise to the occasion. They've proved, Kyrie especially has proved time and time again, they can win basketball games at the highest level. They can be champions. I'm not sure where Luke is at with his knee. He just had a very great game 5. But man, these guys need to band together and be great and put their team on their back. And this could lead to, what might be a final spurt. I do think it's going to be very hard for them to beat Denver. They're still the favorite in my eyes. I know they're going to 7 games with Minnesota. I know they could lose that series, but in my eyes, the champions are the champions until they're not. And that's just how I was raised to watch sports. It's very hard to go back to back, but it's even harder to knock off the defending champions because they know exactly what it takes to win an NBA championship. But what do you guys think? Are the Dallas Mavericks the most polarizing team in the NBA, or am I overreacting a little bit? If you made it this far, I appreciate your support as always. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, blessed. Peace.